Hello artist, it is Mrs. Simpson here, and in this demonstration video I am going to show you how to do your sketchbook assignment on texture. So the two things you're going to need for this assignment is preferably would make it a lot easier if you can print out the handout. So I have printed out the reference sheet here, and I also printed out the actual worksheet that I'm going to be drawing on. This will be really helpful if you can print it out. For whatever reason, if you don't have a functioning printer, or if your printer doesn't work, or you're still waiting on ink or whatever it may be, you can do this on a blank piece of paper. You will just transfer, it's upside down, you will just transfer what you see on here onto a other sheet of paper, okay? So let's try that again, right side up. You're going to need your reference sheet and the worksheet. These are going to be very helpful to complete this. You'll also need a pencil or some type of drawing tool. So let's get started, and I'm going to show you how I got started on mine. All right, so let's take a closer look here on how to complete your sketchbook assignment for texture. So again, what's going to be really helpful is that reference sheet. And I do email these to you periodically, but you can also find them all in the course under mandatory sketchbook. And this week is texture. So you want to make sure that you have this one. This is going to be great because I'm going to refer to all these different types of textures that are already on here when it comes to now completing the printed worksheet. Again, you don't need to print this if you don't have a functioning printer. It's just going to make it a lot easier if you can print the worksheet that I already have for you. So in the first box up here, I'm asking you to practice drawing wood texture on the shape below. And you can see I actually already got that started. One thing I'm going to suggest to you is what I did was I actually searched the internet for some of these drawing textures. So for wood, I took a look at some other examples of some wood drawing texture to get some ideas from there. So it's really quite simple. All I did to start was I put a couple knots in my wood, which are just basically a little circle, or you could just do a little curlicue for your knot. And then now what I'm going to do is, if you look close at a plank of wood or any kind of wood, all it really is a bunch of lines. And some of the lines are closer together and some are a little further apart. And if there is a little knot in the wood, the lines will naturally go around that knot. Some of the lines are closer together while some are further apart. Some of the lines seem a little bit darker. So you want to play around with how hard you press down on your pencil, as well as how lightly you apply the graphite from your pencil to the paper. So this is a really easy way to show that wood texture. It's really just lines. Now on the side here, what I did was I was using short little quick lines here, because on the side of a piece of wood, it seems a little bit more dense when they cut it. It looks dense. So I'm drawing little lines and I'm keeping them very close together. That's also going to give this little plank of wood here a bit more 3-dimension if my side is a little darker, showing different value scales of light to dark. Okay, so I would continue to fill out this to show that wood texture. Now there are multiple different ways that you can do this, so I encourage you to do some of your own research, check the internet, and get some other ideas for what you can do on yours. Okay, the next box I'm asking you to draw shapes, lines, and objects that reflect soft, smooth, and hairy textures. What? Basically what I'm asking you to do is to show me soft, smooth, and or hairy textures. So what I actually went with here is more of a softer texture, and how I did that was I put my hand over my pencil technique, and that alone is showing a softer, smoother line here. And I'm showing some of that soft texture here. To show an object, that's a good idea too. I could also draw a feather, which is a basic line here. And if you look really close at a feather, all it is a bunch of teeny tiny lines really, really close to one another. And it makes up the form of a feather. And they overlap one another. So not only does this technique here show an example of soft, but it also kind of gives it that furry texture as well. Don't be afraid to search the internet for some inspiration and ideas. Okay, so those are some ideas for soft, smooth. The next one is asking you to show rough, sharp, bumpy textures. What I went with here is some more, I went along the sharper texture. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go in here, I picked a sharp, jagged shape here. And I am just going to then go back and repeat this shape over and over and over again to create this very sharp, jagged, rough texture. So you can see it's also making it look three-dimensional the way I have it going. If I would step on that, ouch, that seems very sharp. So these are just a few ideas. Again, search the internet for some sharp, rough drawing textures. Take a look at what some other artists have done for some inspiration. Now, copying and pasting their work into the Dropbox is the wrong answer, but recreating it into your own texture is the right answer. So you'll want to do that. And maybe then I'll do that same texture, but in the opposite direction here. Okay. So the possibilities are pretty much endless here for the texture. Down at the bottom then, it's asking you to show a variety of texture. So that's more than one on the spheres below. This is where, if we go back to the reference sheet, it's showing you all kinds of textures. So I can experiment with smooth textures, some soft textures, some bumpy textures, some sharp textures. I could do some more wood texture. I could do some rough texture or some hairy texture. There's also this impasto technique that painters will use a lot of times. And you can try to mimic some of that, like a matte or a gloss texture, a semi-gloss texture. All of these things can be represented in a two-dimensional work with paint or with a pencil. So for the first one here, I think I'm going to do the soft, or I'm going to do that hand over technique again. And I'm also going to work with value of going from dark to light, my hand over the pencil technique. And I'm just going to rub the side of my pencil and go from dark to light. And this then really gives that smooth, soft finish. So there's one texture. The next one here, I might try to show that bumpy texture that they show. So I think what I'm going to do first is just kind of do the outline here. And don't forget, if you're someone who likes color, you can always go back into any of these with some color. And then I'm actually going to try to get rid of those lines there. Do that hand over with my pencil again. And show some more of this bumpy texture. So again, the possibilities are endless here, but what I want to be seeing is that variety of texture. And then I keep working that one. Over here, Maybe I'll do some of those drawing techniques like cross hatching to kind of give it more of that woven texture. And really start overlapping those lines. Oh, in a rough texture, I could do a stippling technique where I'm tapping down on my circle here with my pencil to create these little dots. And the closer I have these dots together, the darker it's going to be. Further they're apart, the lighter it's going to be, and that's also going to help to create value, which then is going to help create a sense of form. So I continue working on that one, and then I'm really liking this hair. If I go back here, I really like that hair technique. So I think I'm going to try to create hair by overlapping that, starting with one layer and then coming up to the next layer. To create this kind of hairy, fuzzy sphere here. And then I'll finish that. When I'm all done, I'm going to put my name on it. And then I will take a picture of it and submit my finished work into the Dropbox for 10 points. So that's it for texture. It's quite easy. Remember, the goal here is to play. The goal here is to have fun and to really experiment with using tools like your pencils or colored pencils, a pen, a marker, and to experiment with different ways that you can create texture through the way you use lines, through the way you use value. All of those elements of art will help us to create a sense of texture, implied texture to our sketchbook. All right, have fun. I can't wait to see yours.